I'm having a hard time recording my stream of consciousness. The only way that I work right now, I find it a lot easier to talk to people face to face or writing, because it's kind of that stream of consciousness where you get things out, and the more and more you look at it, the more and more you have to edit it. But it's real easy to just write a bunch of stuff down, and it goes from your brain to your paper. I don't know, maybe it just feels more natural to do that, because I find myself not being able to get the words that I want to say out. And I don't have trouble with that with a lot of... I do have trouble, but there's a figuring it out as I'm going, trying different things. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I just gotta do it the same way I do it to a person. But it's so weird. There's so many questions that I don't know how to answer, I guess. A lot of the processing that goes on in my head about these things, I want to get them out and I wanted to share them, but maybe I can't. Maybe I just have to figure it out on my own. The words and the thoughts and all the things going together are hard to verbalize. There's a lot of verbal diarrhea in the audio that I recorded last. I feel like the microphone thing pulls my brain away from me. You know, it like sucks it and puts me in two places at once. But it's so much. I want to put mistakes out there, because not only is it good to see people make mistakes, everything you see is designed to look perfect. People do it all, and I'm not that type of person. It's too much work. I've got other things that I want to do, I guess. Almost like trying to do a recipe that looks really that is really complicated, that you see on the food channel, and they're professionals. They make it very well, I would imagine. And then you go and try it, and you made a bunch of mistakes, and it didn't turn out perfect. Didn't turn out well at all. You don't have to perfect it if you don't want to. There's mistakes that you made that you can learn from. And that's the part that I enjoy. I jump to this and that and the other thing because I want to see the mistakes that I made and hurt a little bit, I guess, and try to understand what I did wrong. There was a point in time where I did multiplayer games. Not so much no more, like the versus Call of Duty stuff. And everything that happened that was wrong was bullshit. Oh, my controller. Oh, it's lag. Oh, and I see it so much, especially since I can laugh about it now. I go and see these people again, and they're just so... everything is stupid except for me. It's fun to watch. And you can do it better. Then maybe I can do the recipe well enough to make it good enough to want to make it for dinner again, the point of living life isn't to perfect it, it's to learn from it, I guess. And when it's perfection, when you set such a difficult goal, I don't know, I feel like people give up, or they pretend that Your ego says, I gotta be good at something, And I'm sure that's not everyone. That's everyone that I know. Almost everyone. So there's probably a great big world out there that I'm unaware of. But that may be because that's the people I surrounded myself with. Because if I feed their bullshit, they'll feed my bullshit. And that's how people maybe coexist together. They don't want people in their life to question their abilities or to question their motives or question, people like that. You can't make a joke in front of them because, if it isn't parallel to everything that they fucking believe in, they're gonna take great offense. They laugh for the things that they approve of. They're like, welcome to my club. Oh, you made me laugh. You deserve a gold star. Now you're my best friend. I don't know. It's hard to put all the crazy pieces in my head together into words to a microphone. Not super bad. I can almost feel people's biases when I talk to them. So there's always an element of switching things up a little bit in order to appease them, because if you just go full force at someone, they're not going to listen to you at all. But if they're, more absorbent when they got chocolate in their belly, or if they like it when you get a little racist, like, hey, you're one of me, maybe you have something to say that I want to listen to. It's such a fucking tightrope walk. So here, I don't know who the fuck I'm talking to. So my brain is like, maybe talk like this, talk like this, talk like this, talk like this. And it's like, why shouldn't I just be myself? Because maybe myself shouldn't be put out there. There's an ego struggle. Like, if I act exactly who I am, like with my husband, the person who I could be the most me with, does that mean I'm full of myself? Does that mean I deserve to be out there? And I don't know, there's just lots of questions, and you can't... It's hard to just shake off. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and now I'm just terrified? I'm not sure. I don't know, I just don't know how to fit, I guess, into the cookie cutter thing. The goal is to be myself regardless, but then there's editing and listening to yourself over and over again. And are you tired when you do it? Or do you feel less confident that day? Are you more invested now than you were before, and you'll see all these mistakes, but then when you go back when you're less invested, there's gonna be new problems and you gotta start all over again. So, and then there's the marijuana. I have a very delicate relationship with marijuana, I think. And there are certain ones that make me feel certain ways, and there is a distinct difference between me smoking weed and me as straight as you can be when you haven't smoked yet that day. It almost feels like weed are the suspenders to my weird pants, to my big pants. I'm still the same me, but how I can express it or where my brain takes turns throughout the day, it gets really dark when I don't smoke. And it doesn't matter how many what I can do, there's still things that I push aside, I guess. Things that I let go of in my head for another day to think about, or see, and I think now that I'm coming down, my brain is less focused on words and things, and sometimes it's just, oh, come on, let's go somewhere else, let's get distracted, when I smoke, I can be focused, and I don't push things that hurt away, which makes me a little cryy, but it is a part of my life, and I know it, and I can still focus on a goal. When I push that stuff away, all I want to do is hide and not solve the problems like I can. The pain gives you passion. I guess I need weed for passion. So when I sit here and talk to people, things get up and down depending on, that joint only lasts for so long. And it's not, I can't get it from something that I could always be fucked up. I don't think I can really always be fucked up on anything. Eventually, if you take enough a day, you're just gonna get sick. The high only lasts for so long. I don't know anything that stays in your body enough. Maybe mushrooms? So I could go like a half a day with blah, 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 blah. But that's wish-washy. I love microdosing mushrooms. Just a little hit of happy. You get that tingling in your jaw, and you could face the day almost with the same kind of, I don't know, I won't promote drugs, I guess. But if you do it, microdosing is the way. You don't have to disappear. Everybody wants to disappear. You need a little lift. And I don't think you can get it from. Tried to microdose coke, I guess, and it's never worked out. If you're gonna do it, stay au naturel. Pills aren't gonna do it. I don't know if black tar heroin will do it. I've never taken it in its purest form. I've never taken the coca leaves, or that would be interesting. I might, if I'm in a place that's legal. Fuck you, government. Tell me what to do, and then you do the exact opposite. Treat me like a fucking child. Do as I say, not as I do. Right, Lover? So I think I got my point across. I mean, I could fill in all the blanks, and I should maybe fill in all the blanks, but nobody has. Ain't nobody got time for that. But if I put things in its more raw form, and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Then I'll know at least that there's an interest for me to put, those little pieces together. I could jump from something out there to something else out there, and you're like, what the fuck is the connection? I'll get to it. It's just hard. I think we're so tangled that there's going to be a lot of, you can't just, people, and they don't put all of the stuff together enough to see a pattern. I think there's a lot of roadblocks, like ego and self-esteem issues and confusion and agendas. And then I get goofy for no reason. Maybe trying to hide something. I got so much to express to let people know who I really am and let them make a decision about me. When people want to say, it ain't about that, I was just doing what I want to do. And in essence, I am. But people are always gonna, if I am going to talk to people about things that I feel are really important, you have to allow them to see who you are in your head and at your best, minus all the other things that go on in your head at the same time. If I'm just gonna talk off the cuff, if that's the term, more things get drummed up like, oh, this is who I am right now, but you don't know why. Why should you care, I guess? Just give me something that speaks to me. So then you have to be kind of pretend. I think maybe I should just try doing one of these where I just read and see what happens. Maybe if I just feel like I'm doing it for me, I just let people, I don't know, because that also feels weird. It feels selfish. I mean, I'm not talking just to hear my fucking self talk. That's not the point at all. Just gotta find the center or something. I mean, that's obviously. Duh. But what does that entail? That's the thing. And in order to really convey yourself to anyone, they have to know everything about you. They have to know where your motivations are. Who were you like as a child? What were you like as a teenager? Tell me, and then you'd have to be honest. Just experience that time with them. Like if every word could have who you are in it, it's sort of like how I work with my other half. Everything has to do with everything. And sometimes I have to, remember we talked about this. This is relevant to what we're talking about now. And some of that could take like an hour. This part and this part and this part and this part is why we are here today. Look at the road we took. And you don't know how much to do that with other people. Because I don't know where everybody who would be listening to this, where they are on their road. And I just expect people to do things I know they don't normally do, or else we wouldn't be where we are now. Where we've always been. Taking sides and starting fights. Yeah, I can't spend all day doing this too. I've got to make the shitty mistakes, the embarrassing things, if people listen to me or not. It's still embarrassing hearing yourself, fuck up so much. And then thinking, if I put it on the internet, I didn't take out all my fuck ups because then nothing would have gotten uploaded. Maybe if you're just yourself, laws of attraction and stuff, people will just come to you. If I show with my words that I'm not here to take sides, I don't know, people are just, everybody's gonna fucking hate me, that's all. Like some things too that say we'll need people to do fundamental changes in themselves in order to even hear anything that I say is anything other than word vomit soup. Maybe all I need is just the people who, laws of attraction, the people who are like, I don't want to take sides. I want a space where I can develop my own opinions. How crazy would that be? Maybe people just we all need to see places that aren't taking sides. They're trying to find something deeper that says, hey, this, but this. It's not black and white. I don't know if it exists in little bits here and there, but they're busy talking about other things that are more important in what they want to do, video games or movies or this and that. So this is purely just for talking about anything. But talking about anything, but the point has to go to as far deep into a reasonable rabbit hole that you can. Let's climb down. Let's make a ladder and bring some flashlights and go spelunking. There's more stuff that we could put together. There's a lot of things I think maybe that can be brought up that are harder. Like, hey, let's talk about your insecurities and how it may affect your life. Let's talk about your childhood. Let's see what really makes you tick. I don't really know how to do that besides just reading a book and seeing what happens. That's all I got right now. Maybe I should focus more on instead of trying to trying to get all my words out to see how I came to a conclusion, which I think may still be helpful, but instead I'm not going to be able to help it. If I'm going to do off the stuff, it's just going to sit inside of me until I fucking blurp it out. And something's spoken about that I really want to say something about. You can't help it. You can't help what, your brain says. I can help me saying it, but if I already came out with the goal of just letting the stream of consciousness come out, then I can't really, it's all or nothing. It's full force or fucking go to bed. I can reason with myself afterwards, to take it out. But some things I think I won't want to take out. So, I don't know. I guess I will see. But until then, maybe I should read a book. Hey, lover. I know that you have said how excited you are to, hear what I'm doing in the closet. And I know that we were sitting here doing it, trying to record together, but I don't know. It's on my mind. Like, oh, God. It's still kind of I don't know, maybe I should try to talk to you like I said I was. And that one day, I think I was. But I feel distant from you right now. That I don't want to share because of past betrayals and how they manifest still now. And, I can't be that best me if there's no one to reflect it on. See, I'm trying to feel out these emotions, and I'm thinking, am I gonna edit this out? It adds another fucking piece to the fucking, another cow to the tornado. Another atom to the Hadron Collider. Is that a smart thing to say, little baby? You know about science more than me, right? I saw your notebooks. You're not fooling anybody. So that's also giving me some trouble. It makes me lose a lot of my confidence, too. I feel like I should be confident because my intentions, hopefully will show, are there. But maybe not everybody should see me as you see me. I don't know. Or maybe we could fix things a little bit better and experiment, see if that is possible. But, it's hard without a, what is that thing called when they test things and there's people who, I want to call them stupid subjects, but they're not. They're like the people who take the placebos, like the balance. Yeah, there's got to be something, fucking something. But it'd be nice to see if maybe I can be the person that I intend to be here. As true to myself as I can be. So, with that said, I was just thinking, lover, that I felt very uncomfortable because I knew you could be walking around while I was doing this. Even though we've done this together before. It's even more uncomfortable than it was then. But in any case, I'm gonna try to read a little bit. Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Truer words, Shia. Or Nike. Just enslave children. Just perpetuate an economy of child labor. Whew. New column. The white maleness of jeopardy. Hey ho. Hey ho. I hope Alex Trebek is doing okay. This sounds like a fucking Dranny Grangus name. Catherine Stimpson of Rutgers is speaking very softly in Gramercy Suite B of the New York Hilton. And those of us at the edge of the overflow crowd can't hear. Stimpson, widely regarded as a reigning princess of political correctness, seems to be explaining that PC, the alphabet dyad, doesn't actually exist. I get the bright idea to head for the convention session next door in Gramercy Suite A, where I can learn more about the non-existence of PC by listening through the wall. What? Entering the room, I brushed past a woman who was muttering about, quote, white male linear thinking. Whew. Is any linear thinking good? Does she think in linear terms? She just wants her linear term to win? Or her linear way of thinking? What makes her think that she knows exactly the cause or the root of the linear thinking? And because from what I'm sure everybody knows, the way that things happen here is the way things happen everywhere. I mean, obviously she's talking about, the oppression of power, because why else would you bring it up? And that is just, it's such an obvious pattern in every point in history that is recorded. You read about the Romans, you read about the Germans, you read about any culture, and there is a person at the top who does things a certain way that inevitably affects the people beneath them negatively. Was there ever a god king in Egypt that was like real chill with his people? Who didn't take multiple wives, or who didn't... Now, of course, the history is gonna make it seem better because it's written by the victors and they're just witnessing everything instead of just reading a book about it. But when you read between the lines, I mean, it's obvious that these people have lots of things for a reason, and you hear things from other sides and historians and blah blah blah. And when you put the pieces together, it just basically says the same story. People powerful, people rise and fall. I don't know if this chick knows it, but for an easy example, Mao Zedong wasn't white. And we know a lot about his atrocities. We're still dealing with it today. The people of fucking China are still dealing with it today. The same principles that were then are coming back with a capitalist twist, but now they're starving again. The food shortage, from what I've seen, is, maybe I should look it up more in depth, but now I'm a patron of China Uncensored. I feel like I should be able to reference them because they've been pretty right so far. Pretty right. I mean, there's everything that they have reported on. They've either been there or they've referenced sources. Multiple. It's like a meta information thing, and I trust them. I'll always be on the lookout for, things that are wrong, or if, I don't know, something happens and suddenly they start. But for now, all I can do is trust them. And there's a food shortage in China. They implemented what was it called? Like, it's okay to not be full, don't overstuff yourself kind of slogan for everybody to follow. Like, duh, you shouldn't be eating so much, you dum-dum. And when you're in restaurants, 3 people should eat, maybe it's like the law now, that 3 people have to order only 2 bowls, 4 people have to only order 3 bowls, so there's -1, so when you get down to 1, I don't know what the fuck you do. But Mao Zedong wasn't white. That's the point. Xi Jinping, Sailor Moon, he's not white. So, and there's plenty of atrocities there. I mean, they talk about, women's rights and all this as if in such like a shallow way, as if you can't go out and play the man's game. They're not fighting for us to be able to play the woman's game, which I think would be completely fucking different, and not, pity parties with hugs and talking about our feelings all the time, or whatever fucking trope you want to think of. But again, another time. So it's just like the shallow, they just pick at straws. They have these organizations that you're not doing enough for us. On things that we have enough freedoms to work on an individual basis. They want to take that power from us, even if we don't find anything wrong with it. No, you're wrong. There is something wrong. And this is what it is, and we will fight for you. So blah, 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 women's rights, feminism, but they buy products from a country that not too long ago were giving forced abortions. That still today are being called out for organ harvesting? Never mind females' rights. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, or child. If you do something that they deem is punishable by a concentration camp, or a detention center, rather, you got a good fucking chance that your organs are going to get harvested. And there are women there, and there are children there. I wouldn't be able to say how young, but fucking 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you're still a child. You're still someone who needs to be protected by everybody else. It's like a ladder of protection. Everybody should come together to, I don't know, maybe just protect everyone. It's still a developing mind that's never got to live life. What are the odds that they draw the line at children? A 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old. And women have been forced to have abortions where they just cut you open and kill your child and crudely sew you up and leave you there. There are bigger fish to fry. And maybe nothing gets done because they're pointing the finger in the wrong place. Why don't we just break it down instead of white male linear thinking? Why don't we do something that we can actually see a pattern on instead of being racist and just go to linear thinking? What constitutes as linear thinking? What are the ramifications? Put it in make a fucking graph. Entering the room, I brushed past a woman who was muttering about white male linear thinking. Then, placing one of my white male ears firmly to the room's divider, he really is listening to the other room. I hear Stimson comparing political correctness to UFOs. Slowly, it dawns on me that in Gramercy A speaker in a green dress is saying something more interesting. She is attacking Alex Trebek's TV show, complaining testily... I'm a child. Complaining Maybe I should just get this out a second. She's... Stop. It's not even that funny. God. She is attacking Alex Trebek's TV show, complaining testily about the white maleness of Jeopardy. Torn between the UFO explanation of PC and the whiteness of Jeopardy, I tuned back into Stimson, who is now carrying on about a fat-headedness of the anti-PC people. I mean, it is. I mean, you're attacking someone's ego for independent thought. That's what the fat-headedness of anti-PC people kind of sounds like to me. It kind of sounds, a little like communism. Or socialism, whatever. What are the tiny differences? Who cares? Lenin fucking ism, Stalinism, Maoism. I mean, they are all male. That is something that's... I don't know if women have ever had the opportunity to be tyrants. Except for now. But tyrants in the way, where you murder a bunch of people. I'm not saying anything funny. I'm just saying that I don't know of any female tyrants. I would hate them just the same. I bet this bitch wouldn't. Oh, fat-headedness for having individual thought. Then the green dress anti-Jeopardy woman gives way to a black shirt male who is answering an earnest question from the floor. Is it okay in college classes to teach music videos instead of literature? That has nothing to do with race or sex. That's an interesting question. I mean, did he know where he was? Like going to an alien convention and asking for a mac and cheese recipe? Black Shirt thinks it's just fine, though he says derisively that it might upset some traditionalists, and the audience chuckles appreciatively at the put-down. Oh, shit. Well, what's the debate between, instead of putting it down and giving a chuckle, what is the difference between music videos and literature? I think there are some literature I feel like is a little fucking overrated. I've always thought that Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain stuff was overrated. But if this guy likes it, maybe I should give it another shot. Or some people like it. It's just so hard to look at the appreciation or appreciate everything. But I want to take his word a little bit because he has decided to write this book. So maybe there's more in favor of Mark Twain. That if given the opportunity, if more things build up, then maybe I should read Mark Twain again. It's interesting how I got confused because I thought he for a second was in front of the woman who's actually speaking, Stimson. Like he was asking her a question from the audience instead of being in this little concession area with the chick who was talking about Jeopardy. But he's still But the audience chuckles that he asks an earnest question from the floor. Almost like, he's taking his turn on the stage. It's interesting how he talks about the people in that room, in that concession area, too. Describing them by identifiers, describing them by the colors of their clothes and what they're wearing. But there's also a lot of, it's a very delicate balance, I think. Maybe in some of the literature stuff, it was kind of left up to the people who probably had bias. Everybody has bias. So who do you give the music videos to? And if they can't break down that that's a valid question, it's still an art form or something, And it's not just the traditionalists. Oh, what an irony, because you call yourself something, and you just categorize them as something, and you took a side, you defined the other side, and you started a war. Or am I wrong about all of this? I mean, English class. Why would you teach that in English class? Couldn't you just make something else? Because, there's words, but music videos are also like a visual thing, and there's also the tech part. There's so much that English class is easy, because a book usually is primarily in English when you're monolingual, and your one language is English. I feel like you need a whole other category for that. Maybe I'm not understanding the context, because maybe he thinks he's a traditionalist. Or he categorizes himself as a traditionalist. Uh-oh, we'll find out now. Welcome to the Modern Language Associations Convention. So maybe it's modern language. And old literature probably was the victim in his joke? In his some sort of ism? Bookism? Traditionalism? That doesn't sound as hateful as other isms. Maybe I'm not thinking of the proper suffix. Welcome to the Modern Language Associations Convention, the annual gong show of the academic world. This is where some 11,000 college teachers of language and literature gather each year to hear papers on such topics as Jane Austen and the masturbating three Burton jacket. What? Oh, because I read it wrong. Stupid. On such topics as Jane Austen and the masturbating three-button jacket. Between the Body and Flesh, performing lesbian sadomasochism, the poetics of Ouija, and the transvestite biography. Beneath this apparent freelance zaniness lies a consistent purpose. Once the preserve of Tweedy and bookish professors, the 32,000-member MLA has long since been taken over by the race and gender crowd. Now it is a hand-edged, heavily politicized academic group that looks at Western literature, when it looks at all, solely as the ideological expression of white male dominance. Holy shit. Well, Jane Austen was not a man, was it? I guess I don't know that for sure. Never met her. Every year I say this convention can't get any worse, says a professor who's afraid to offer her name, and every year they prove me wrong. Her. Maybe she's just oppressed by white males too much, and that's why she has her own opinion. The air is thick with the incantatory words hegemonic, privileged, and dominant, plus lots of near words like liberators, interdiscursive, and heterosexuality. In one room, a lecturer from San Francisco State rails against, quote, white supremacist patriarchal capitalism, adding that capitalism must be destroyed in our time. War never changes. In another, Sarah Sulary of Yale mocks a donation to her university that would set up a chair in Western civilization. Western civilization, she asks? Why not a chair for colonialism, slavery, empire, and poverty? I guess I don't really know what colonialism means. I thought it was just an area of space. I mean, I never really cared. It's just words that mean you divided something into something else. So I thought that's just what that was. It's just what it's a colony, and colonies are just some people who come together. Maybe colony instead of like settler is different because they separate from somewhere to colonize something else. Like if we went to Mars and colonized it, do they have a problem with that? A slavery has, I mean, it's the oldest trade ever. It doesn't matter. As long as you were different than someone else, it didn't matter that if you were a slave or what you looked like as a slave. You performed a certain function. Slavery has been around forever. Everybody knows that. Maybe they pretend. Maybe they want to erase it off the books, just like Big Brother erases all the things. Empire and poverty. I mean, poverty, giving alms to poor people, has always been a thing. You could read it even in fucking Buddhist texts, and I'm pretty sure Hindu texts. They got slaves in there too. An empire, I mean, you're just stupid. A Western civilization just narrows down all those things, doesn't it? I mean, if you gave a chair to colonialism, slavery, empire, and poverty, couldn't you say that about every civilization in Africa, in the Middle East, in China? So which specific part of the world are we talking about then? That had the slavery and the empires and the poverty. What an idiot. And Stephen Wartofsky of Loyola University in Chicago talks of a, quote, desire to forget history, which he predicts, quote, will begin at next year's MLA with the displacement of white male Eurasian texts. Hold on. Let me read this again, because this is very... I mean, there's never a reason. You can learn from history. You just want it to disappear so you could create whatever you want? And pretend that it never is it to take people's pain away? Because that's doubtful. Stephen Wartofsky. Somebody should see where the fuck this guy is at right now. Hopefully dead. This was 30-ish years ago? So, Stephen Wartofsky says he has a desire to forget history, which he predicts will begin at next year's MLA with the displacement of white male Eurasians' texts. So just make everything disappear because of what? It's like a slow... I mean, what did people do? Lots. What did ISIS or the Taliban, didn't they? Probably both of them. They went around tearing down statues of every other religion and making things and people disappear. Raping and pillaging. Just destroying the history of the conquered area, country, or what have you. And they make it go away. I believe Rome was relatively successful because they integrated people's beliefs, Greek, Christian, pagan, all to appease a lot of people. Like, yeah, we're okay with this, you're far enough away, whatever. So they let them kind of still be them, if not in any significant way. You still are ruled, but it helps mask the problem, I guess. And to make it disappear, not only is that what communism has done, not only is that what the Roman Catholic Church has done, it's what every violent civilization had done. Didn't the was it the Goths? I think that was Rome. Byzantine was destroyed. Not much exists from it because it was just trampled. We don't want you here. We don't want history. We don't. All they're doing is just making people now that you have a blank space, I guess, because there's nothing there, I can tell you everything that is. I mean, and they wrote that Jane Austen masturbates with a 3-button shirt or whatever. Are you gonna tell them to write something different so that they don't mention one of these books that you're gonna be making disappear? One of these apparently white males? Jane Austen, the white male? This is no place to talk about literature, and many of the panels set up to deal glazingly with the subject are quickly converted to higher purposes. A scheduled discussion of E.L. Doctorow's novel, The Book of Daniel, turns out to be a long rant about the McCarthyite 1950s by a young professor who seems to know very little about the period. Oh, nice. Promoting, probably, communism? Probably into that Red Scare? A scheduled discussion of E.L. Doctorow's novel, The Book of Daniel, turns out to be a long rant about the McCarthyite 1950s by a professor who seems to know very little about the period. The general tone here is angry and confrontational, with intellectual opponents, none of whom seem to be on the premises, denounced as the enemy. The presidential address given by Houston Baker Jr., a black professor from the University of Pennsylvania, is a vitriolic attack on white dominance as allegedly represented by fraternities on the Penn campus. Sure, you're doing a great job. The vacationing ideologues here are suffering from a swarm of radical isms. The isms. It was isms. But the central one, totally dead in the real world, is Marxism. Holy shit. Nope. I was wrong about the isms. Because Marxism isn't derogatory. I mean, debatable, but it's not racism or sexism. The vacationing ideologues here are suffering from a swarm of radical isms, but the central one, totally dead in the real world, is Marxism. It is a vulgar Marxism, adapted by British radicals. This is the second time we've heard about British radicals. Getting more curious about them. And it goes like this. Whether we acknowledge it or not, everything we do or say works to support our ideological interests. Realizing that all creative writing is already political, the left works to reveal literature as the expression of an elite ruling class. So literary studies are properly a branch of left politics and nothing more. Was that sarcasm? Oh yeah, all that was... Maybe I should read it again. Realizing that all creative writing is already political, the left works to reveal literature as the expression of an elite ruling class. So literary studies are properly a branch of left politics and nothing more. Marge Simpson wrote a poem about a duck once. She's yellow. It's hard to imagine that an entire profession is careening off the rails this way, but it is indeed happening. The good news is that few people are willing to resist. One of them is Feroza Jusawala, of the University of Texas El Paso. She passionately supports multicultural studies. but her paper bluntly complains about the heavy politicization of the field. Teaching diversity or multiculturalism, she says, has come dangerously close to indoctrination of a political point of view rather than teaching culture. And she says there's intimidation and censorship, too, for the politically incorrect. So, what started this? From what I've thought about culture, it's kind of broad, right? Almost like you could fit anything you want in there. Culture is the food that people ate, the traditions that they had, the clothes they wore, the thoughts that they had, and also the influences of the things that ruled above them. It's just anything that happened in a period of time, right? What is the culture? What is culture in the confines of how college would define it? Because if it's just what's going on at the time, politics have to do with a lot of it. I mean, but instead of learning about the politics of a time, they want it to disappear. They label it as something that shouldn't be explored for any reason, even if it's just to learn from those mistakes. So how did it get to be about unlearning instead of learning? Maybe it was just a weak point in something and somebody took the opportunity to... They saw book burnings worked in the medieval times, or whenever, all that shit happened, the conquistadors. And so technically the culture of political correctness and intimidation and censorship would be taught in a culture class in college. This is what Americans did back then. I bet it'll look great. But history is written by the winners. So, and they got the books. So this is what is intimidating to me. It also kind of draws my mind from this to like that weird episode of Arthur where the old lady was telling Arthur and his bunny friend that, racism is a big problem right now, and this guy died, like drawing children into something by saying specific words to them without the big picture and making it seem like they should agree. This chicken has to be refrigerated, and that's why we're refrigerating potatoes. It's different. Because potatoes don't have to be refrigerated. It's probably bad for them too. Anytime I've seen refrigerated potatoes, they've gotten very mushy very quick. It's easier to keep them in a cool, dry place. That's the point I was trying to make. They missed some of the information. So, to have that much power over books and then to see stuff like that, I mean, children read literature. They want to erase a history that the children would have eventually learned, and they want to warp a story in order to fit what they want the child to conclude. And they give it to them, Oh, you should think this. Instead of going, is it okay for a child to be racist? I mean, it sounds like a ridiculous question, but, when you miss half the information, that's it. You don't have a whole picture to go by. So now children will just grow up thinking that, this guy, just because he was black, was murdered. And what I feel about the subject, I feel like is irrelevant because it's just a template to every other way that people try to manipulate children into thinking right. That's scary. Well, maybe there are some names to some people who are responsible for this shit. What was this fucking group called? The MLA? Modern Language Associations Convention. So there's a Modern Language Association. It'd be a decent thing to, go look up and, maybe harass them a bit. That doesn't work. Maybe talk to some of them. So what are you up to lately? What books are you rewriting today? So this Feroza Jasawala of the University of Texas El Paso continues. She calls for freedom from both the old, quote, scholarly humanist elites and the new, quote, elitist hegemonic Marxists, who now ride herd on the MLA. It's a terrific paper, a small ray of light in the mine shaft of MLA dogmatism. Whew. I hope you all have some names to put on your shit list now. I hope there's information there that may convince people to start thinking for themselves. Because when you're not able to think for yourself, they're going to take as much as they can from you. Taking your freedom of thought. Just like J.K. Rowling, they'll kick you out the club. So are you just going to keep giving up beliefs that you fight for so fervently when somebody tells you to do that? It's a lot like 1984. The thought police. Maybe I should start making connections to that because of this part. That's easy. Maybe it's just like the 2 minutes of hate. That's what that convention was. At one point in the story, they were fighting with one of the Asias, and the guy gets a phone call or some shit, and he's like, we're fighting somebody different now, hate them. It was actually them who did it all the time. And then Winston has to go into work for hours and hours and days, sleeping inside the Ministry of Truth, deleting all the stuff that says we were fighting this person and change it to we're now fighting this person. So, are you just going to let your anger rule you? Or you're just going to be driven by emotions that are being manipulated that you didn't come up with on your own? If you can't feel for yourself, and there's a problem with accepting how people feel, because they translate it in a bad way. It becomes the anger that they project, or the madness, or the sadness, or whatever it is. The anger, or the love, and we reject it as something that we only understand in its face value, that you attacked me, instead of seeing where people are coming from. So it perpetuates, I think, the same sentiment. There's a lot of generalizations that I think a lot of comedy when I think of this. There's a lot of I think hearing jokes when I was younger that defined my view of things. Okay, lots of men say that they don't want to hear about this, or women talk too much, or so I'm gonna try to mold myself into something that agrees with this. Obviously, if there's so many people, then it's, impressionable child stuff. So when it comes to feeling emotions that I think are serious, or really feeling the need to communicate with people, when there's something bad that happens, those things don't come up as a solution to communicate or to be real with a person, because then you would be one of those people, and that would be crazy. And that was me not thinking for myself. Feel what's good and keep everyone in the equation when coming to conclusions. You can't say that all white males are bad, because there will always be white males, unless you want to exterminate someone. if it applies to one, it applies to all. Somebody will want to exterminate you. So we all have to just stop wanting to exterminate each other. And maybe, go out and get a malt milkshake. And talk about how we feel. And all white males wants for babies. And if you don't think about the babies, then you're going to treat everybody any way you want. All men are this, all women are that. People say they don't feel it, or they don't do it, but fun thing that I've done, I learned a lot from it, but it didn't go as well as I would have liked. I tried to make a friend from an enemy. I tried to meet someone on their level. It doesn't matter what I think right now. I'm going to listen to this person and feel what they have to say. And it didn't work out because turned out the person was lying. Tell me what you're feeling. Oh, my children are dead. Bullshit. Found that out real quick. But when you can relate to someone on that level, you're not pushing what you feel aside. I think you're giving it more power. Like, look, I can care about you so much. I expect the same in return. Instead of just being angry and pushing at someone, instead of opening your fucking ribcage and letting them in, it's a neat experiment, and sometimes it hurts. A lot of the times it hurts. Most of the time it hurts. But pain has a lot of information. And when you take it in and you take how you feel in and you apply it in a positive way and you break it down and you think, why do I feel like this? Why does this person want to make me feel like this? Did they want to make me feel like this? Ask every single question you can. Makes me feel like I want to start a fight club, except like a hug club. Watch a show that you don't like, and try to find the value in it that somebody else feels in it. Try to give an enemy a hug and see how that goes. Start a fight and don't and lose. I don't know. Make me soap. It gives them all these little tests. It gives all these little homeworks. I wish, I don't know, people wanted to give themselves homework. I try to give myself homework. It fails miserably sometimes. I guess it's not so much homework as it's the next opportunity you have. No. It's none of that. I'm just who I am, and I stick by something steadfast. I try my goddamnedest, but it doesn't always work. Because before I gave him a hug, I yelled at him. That's what happens when people feel like they're being invaded. They're gonna fucking fight back. But these fucking other people, they want to take your fight from you. For sure. You can't have a differing opinion. Go to jail. You're a racist, go to jail. I just asked somebody how they were doing. Why am I going to jail? This has gone on long enough. Give an enemy a hug. Bye.